to interview about the racial profiling. My name is Luisa Camarena.
And my name is Jackie Feist.
Okay. Have you seen that clip? I'm going to ask you 3 questions, so
Okay.
if you can please answer. Are you aware that racial profiling is currently an issue?
I'm very aware that racial profiling is currently an issue.
If so, what do you know about it? Can you tell us more about it?
Okay. Well, I know that there's a big problem with police corruption in the United States. If you just look like the last 2 or 3 months, even with just this morning, the police who killed Mr. Gray being brought up on charges, going back to Ferguson and the issues that happened there, and the gentleman in New York who was killed for selling loose cigarettes. There is a huge problem with racial profiling by the police in this country. When you are looking for people who I believe are minorities, and in the case of white people, usually poor white people, you can pick on these people because they don't have the means or the support to go after the police, to make what was wrong right. And even in the case where the police are brought to justice, or the police are found to be responsible for what they did, the money that the people receive for the damages don't come from the police, it comes from the taxpayers. So they essentially get to do whatever they want, and there's usually very little repercussions personally for what they do.
Okay, thank you. What went wrong in this critical incident?
What went wrong was the police made it very obvious. If you listen to the recording, they pulled him over because of his race. And personally, I find that very offensive because, number one, as an American citizen, he does have a 4th Amendment right from unreasonable search and seizure. So he shouldn't have been stopped. I mean, the whole stop and frisk program is very much unconstitutional. But my parents are biracial. My mother is Mexican American and my father is a white American.
Mexican.
My mother's Mexican. She's actually half Mexican, half Oud Indian from this area. So yeah, picking on him because he's a mutt, and I have heard that in my life. That's quite plainly racial profiling, and that's very much against the law. Number 2, just as an American, his rights are violated because, again, he does have the 4th Amendment right from protection from unreasonable search and seizure. I would suggest he shouldn't have said anything. He should have said, "I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to evoke my 5th Amendment right to not incriminate myself, and I want a lawyer." Don't ever talk to the police without a lawyer. Ever, never, 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 never.
What would you have done differently if you were the police officer, the civilian being pulled over, and how would you change that outcome of the situation?
I don't really know that the police, as a police officer, if there was anything really I would have done differently, because you have to come in mind, look at it. Number 1, I think that there's a lot of police that just like having someone to push around. I really do believe that. And then number 2, he's just a kid. Number 3, he's a racial minority. I just think that there was not a whole lot that the police would have done differently. I mean, they have the larger police department and apparently their mayor standing behind this very illegal stop and frisk program. So hey, if they can push people around and call people names and physically assault people, because even if they are found responsible, they're not going to have to pay for it. I don't think they would have changed it. And there are consequences for being an honest cop and speaking up. So I don't know if the police really would have done anything differently. Again, for him, I would have not said anything. I'd evoked my 5th Amendment right to not incriminate myself, and asked for an attorney.
And do you think something should be done about racial profiling? If so, what?
Yeah, one of the things that I've heard about a way to minimize the problem being caused by the police in this country is to ask them to have, similar to what nurses have, similar to malpractice insurance. If something happens and you get taken to court, you have to have a special type of insurance to cover yourself. That would make the cops responsible for their actions, because like I said before, if I get harassed by a cop, which as a white person is not very likely, but if I get stopped and harassed by a cop and I take them to jail and I win, like I said, it doesn't come out of their pockets. We as the taxpayers pay for that. So if the police were held directly responsible for their actions and there were serious consequences leading up to termination or worse for what they do, I think that you're never going to have things be completely perfect, but I think that would change things.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.